Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cardon Ellis Show. I am your host, Cardon Ellis, here on FM 98.1. And today in the studio, we got a really cool guest today, Kat. Hey, Kat, what's going on?
Greetings. I'm excellent, thanks, Cardon.
And this is Kat Dawes, who you didn't tell me you had a book until you showed up. She just showed up with a really cool book. She is the progenitor, shall we say. She doesn't like the term guru, but we'll say the progenitor of Nowism, which is a really cool philosophy that we're going to dive into here in a second. And I didn't know you'd written this book, or else I would have read it before you came. Our conversations have been interesting. I'm sure this book is interesting. But the book is called The Time and Space Contract by Kat Dawes. Or, sorry, I said Kat Dawes, Kat Dawes. I apologize. I'm already messing this up. I'm not living in the now, as Eckhart Tolle would say, right? I'm living in the 3 seconds before when I'm wondering what my producer is going to think about what I say. So anyway, Kat, tell us about Nowism.
Well, thanks for sharing this present moment with me.
All right, rock on.
Because it's a glorious thing. Nowism. Well, there's so many ways that I could describe this love affair that I have with the present moment, but really, it's the art of conscious participation in the present moment. Because as you know, a lot of people are distracted by the future and the anxiety of the God of the should and the must, and other people are sort of snagged on the past and regret and all of the things. And so then there's this neglect of like complete presence in the present moment, especially during this time in human history. So basically I assist people to craft a game with their spirituality, with their consciousness in order to...
You gamified spirituality?
You got it.
On.
It's fast food enlightenment.
Okay, fast food enlightenment. All right. So what's the kids' meal? Are you giving us the kids' meal entry pack right now?
Yeah, right.
Does it come with a toy? Okay.
It does. So, in a nutshell, what I help people do is choreograph their consciousness so that they fit their spirituality into the day that they're living. Because as you might know, like people who have a spiritual practice, maybe you've got one, tend to have like a morning practice where they'll create this amazing space and time to drop in real deep. They'll themselves into glory, wave the sage and light the candle and do all the things. And then after that holy instant, then they hit the day and the traffic and the freaking boss and and they're like fighting with reality. And then they come home at the end of the day and then they themselves back into glory. And so Nowism is basically not doing that, but rather like sort of having this marriage of your spirituality into your mundane life, like the in-between moments, sort of like it's about bringing sort of magic to the mundane.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that you're trying to help people bring that they themselves, and I noticed you did the cool symbol, you know what I'm saying? They themselves into a good place in the morning. Like maybe those of us who are better than me even have like a morning prayer routine or a morning yoga routine or a morning stretching or Tai Chi or whatever it is that gets them centered and gets them deep. And oftentimes that's a great part of the morning and you really do feel good.
Right, and,
you know
and how great is it when you're on your own? It's so easy. Like
Yeah.
you have got nothing intercepting the holiness.
Well, unless you're like us parents who have kids slapping you in the face at 5:30 in the morning and say, "Oh yeah, get up, yeah, come on, get up." Okay, so we'll have to make some kind of adjusted Nowism for parents out there. Okay,
Gotcha.
maybe the kids meal version is for single people. There's like a family meal version. But anyway, they get into this good place in the mornings or in the evenings, but then during the day, so much of that can go out the door, especially like you said, when you're dealing with traffic or I'm not sure with your Aussie accent, if you're saying the bus and the stress of being on the bus or the boss, and that was the boss.
The boss.
Yeah, so was that bus or boss? I
No,
wasn't
the
quite sure.
gangster boss,
Oh, okay, yeah, the gangster boss, the man.
Yeah,
That's how they say the man in
Right.
Australia, I guess. We do have to get this out of the way. You have a lovely accent. Where are you from?
I'm from Australia.
Yeah, but which part? It's a whole continent.
From down under, love. Well, from Gold Coast, on the East Coast, Queensland.
Okay,
yeah, it's
cool, rock on.
paradise, actually.
Yeah, actually, I've had multiple friends from the Gold Coast, and it is a phenomenal place. Shout out to the Gold Coast.
Turquoise water.
Yeah, okay, now you're just bragging. Okay, now you're just bragging. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, you're saying that there is a way to take the goodness of the morning routine with you, is basically the claim you're making, right?
There really is.
Okay, awesome. What is it?
Well, in my theory, right, I believe that entertainment is a great educator. So for me, it can't be laced with a whole bunch of seriosity. It's really a deep choice, but then it's got to be a game. You know, it's got to be playful. It's got to be like this private sort of quest that you have between you and God or source, the universe, whatever your thing is. And so that then you're actually in some sort of like, you know, some sort of playful dance with reality where you're focused on still doing what you need to do, but actually like activating more of your potential through the way that you're turning up.
Okay, cool. Give us some examples.
Right. So an example would be like, you know, maybe if you're sitting at a traffic light, right? And
dude, this is so crazy. I was just thinking of Eckhart Tolle's example where he said, if you're sitting at a traffic light, you need to focus on your. This is freaky, man. Are you guys like in this little nowist live in the now club? I know you don't like being called a guru, but I mean, right now this is tripping me out. All right, I was literally just thinking that. Are you telepathic?
I love Eckhart Tolle. He's like the Yoda of spirituality. Anywho.
But yours is the cool fast food version.
Right, that's right. It's like, we just freestyle that thing, rebranded, boom.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were giving an example of how to drag this good energy with you.
So picking a topic that a lot of people have a bit of frustration with is traffic. Like you're sitting in the traffic, right? Red light. That dude over there is doing that thing. It's freaking you out. That guy cut you off before, and you've got all these things to do. And so there is this sort of contamination of the present moment that can happen at traffic lights. And so instead of allowing the traffic light to sort of amplify the road rage, we actually create a positive trigger where we make traffic lights mean an opportunity for me to visit the thank bank. The thank bank in Nowism is a place that you go to in your imagination where you deposit like sort of credits of gratitude in order to sort of pump up your vibrational structures, if you will.
Okay, cool.
So you feel me? Like, so instead of washing the dishes and just worrying about the bills that need to be paid, or like, you know, we have a lot of white noise, right? There's a lot of like white noise. You know, we have like about 70,000 thoughts a day.
Wow.
Like it's a lot of thoughts. Like, I mean, what are you thinking about?
At a family-friendly station. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's amazing, right? You think about the volume of that 70,000 thoughts.
I can tell you it's not in the thank bank, and I like that. I like that phrase though, because like honestly, I really think on Gordon B. Hinckley said once that on small hinges swing the doors of our lives. And I always like that because I really do believe that on small things, sometimes as simple as what are our thoughts, okay? Large aspects of our lives really do swing. And I know it sounds corny, but sometimes these little monikers like the thank bank really do actually make a difference because when you're about to go south, it's better to go north. When it's, you know, when you're about to go bad into a negative spot. And I really do believe that there is a battle between negativity and positivity in this world. That there is a battle between cynicism and faith. And sometimes the only real difference between you being a cynical character in that moment and you being a positive character in that moment is something as simple as thinking, should I go to the thank bank right now or should I just be pissed off? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I like that example of heading to the thank bank. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, you know, and this is the thing about gratitude. It's an important frequency. It's actually a spiritual technology. You know what I mean? That's
cool.
When we are grateful for something, when we're thankful, when we're really appreciating the moment, we're grateful because something worked out. Like, you know, the money came in. Oh, I'm grateful. I rendezvoused with the lover. So grateful. You know, I won the car.
Money and lovers. Those are the best examples we can come up with. I'm loving it. I'm loving this.
Materialism.com, you know? Yeah. But like these are the things, like when the external thing lines up, then I feel the feeling. And so when you understand universal law and the way the vibration works, the energy of gratitude is actually, it's the energy of fullness. It's the energy of receivership. It's the bit where you won, you know? So beginning the day or actually inducing states of gratitude actually broadcasts a frequency of fullness, of gratitude. And when you are in a relationship with gratitude and looking for things that you appreciate, you basically just have an alkaline mental atmosphere. You know, things flow better. You know how, like, if you stub your toe in the morning and you get out of the wrong side of the bed, how in the cosmic joke sense of things, it seems to snowball really quickly.
Yeah.
It only takes one bad thought plus another one. and the energetic charge, and then boom, before you know it, you're in a momentarism situation.
Momentarism. Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. This is now I'm sure there's a lot of people that are thinking right now, okay, cool. That sounds great. That sounds great, and that's where I want to be. Okay? Because obviously looking at you, you got a super cool vibe. You're pretty hip. You can't see this, but she's actually sitting cross-legged in the guest chair. She's the only person I've met that has come in and has sat cross-legged. That's practically the lotus position right there. You know what I'm saying? In the guest chair, you got really cool spirituality about you and a really cool aura that I think a lot of people want to think, they want that, right? You know what I'm saying? So how do people get from obnoxious momentarist me
Yes.
to really cool skinny vegan with a hip vibe? You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm just kidding. I don't know if she's vegan or not. You know what I'm saying? But you are in incredible shape. Holy smoke. You're like what all of us wish would happen in that like 3-day period where we say we're going to go vegan with our friends, because we see what they look like. And then by day 3, we're like, back to eating like a water buffalo. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I think water buffaloes are vegan, so that was a bad example. But anyway, how do we get from where we are here, in this, what we would consider less enlightened state, I guess you could say, to where you are? Because it just seems like a divide that's way too difficult to cross sometimes. Almost like these unicorns that are able to be vegan are the only ones that can pull it off. You know what I'm saying? There's almost like a spiritual fear in a lot of people, I think. How do people cross that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's a big stigma of a style of character that goes with being conscious, of being interested in your growth and all that. But, ultimately, as my great teacher would say, pain pushes or vision pulls. Now, either you have a crisis, like the shift hits the fan, so to speak, and you have like a level of pain in your life where you get pushed right to the edge of who you are. And then you go, nah, like I need to rise up. Like something needs to change. The lover leaves, you have a car accident, you get diagnosed. Like often people are fueled by crisis. Other people are fueled by a vision. But either way, what it takes ultimately is a decision. And the only reason why you're going to make a decision is because you truly believe on some level, like a child, that you've got some dormant superhero powers that if could just be disturbed into action, that you would be like a genius version of you. Okay. And so in the romance of this idea and in the playfulness of like, what if I could activate my gifts, talents, capacities like in this life? For me, I took a vow to now. That's what happened. And so,
dude, you are great at these little names, man. We got to get you in marketing. Go to the thank bank. Take a vow to now. Pain pulls and vision pushes or whatever. You're just, man, you are good at this.
Well, the Nowism
don't get too good or else my producers are going to fire me and hire you.
Nowism is based on this stuff. Like, I always thought that, like, my mind is like a series of advertisements of like commercial breaks. And I'm either doing like adverts from the past or like anxious adverts about the future. But like when you start to like play different adverts for your mind, suddenly you get now soap, wash your hands of the past. You get evicted from the comfort zone and you might get a ticket to the manifestation.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So that's how we roll.
All right. So, basically, for those of you that are just tuning in, right now we're talking with Kat Dawes, and she is indeed the author of the book, The Time and Space Contract, a revised edition, version 2.0, mind you. Okay. And she doesn't like being called the guru, but we'll say she's the progenitor of Nowism, which is a philosophy that helps you focus in the now. There's, as I've said before, I read a lot of Eckhart Tolle when I was a younger man. I was probably a more responsible and better person at the time. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that are very similar, but it's also really kind of like a new hip version that also has a really, the thing I like about Nowism in comparison to other things that I've read and seen, or that I've spoken about, is it really does convert the philosophical into the everyday, if I could say. And so if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Kat Dawes, and she's giving us a little bit of a rundown on Nowism. And she's talked a little bit about how to go from where I am as this obnoxious, Western American chump, with a microphone, to living in the now and being a little bit more of an enlightened soul. And you've talked about going to the thank bank, okay, and that, if I say this correctly, pain pushes and vision pulls.
That's right.
All right?
That's
We
right.
got to activate these kind of romantic spiritual superpowers inside. Talk about these superpowers.
Yeah, well, we all come forth, I believe we all come forth from the great all that is, God source, whatever that is, with a very unique fruit, like a very unique pattern, an energetic signature of a talent, a gift, a capacity, something that is, your thing.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that through becoming the right internal condition, you can become an instrumentality for the God force or the universal living intelligence to actually flow through you and to create a prolific amount of talent and gifts and whatever your thing is. For me, the this idea of when you were little, you knew that you were special. Like there was something about you that was a superhero.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, like staying connected with that original love affair with life is really what Nowism is. That's why I focus so much on, catchy things and humor and entertainment and things like that. So that when it comes to that moment where your momentarist is taken over and you're like in a toxic moment.
Your momentarist?
Yes.
That is epic. Okay, so we got the thank bank. I'm telling you, you got to get into marketing, Kat. I mean, actually, I got to tell you, stay where you are in spiritualism. Okay, it's probably a lot more satisfying. But we got the thank bank. We got pain pushes and vision pulls. What was the other one?
We've got the vow to now.
Oh, we got the vow to now. All right. And then you just said...
What were we just talking about? Oh, I was talking about your momentarist.
Yeah, the momentarist.
Yeah.
Okay, so who is the momentarist and what do they do to us?
Well, okay, first of all, like the term negative thinking is not dirty enough. And I'm not talking about like a negative thought. The type of habitual negative thinking where you're just constantly worrying, or you're constantly concerned, or you're constantly frustrated. It's like a thing that you've carried around.
Yeah.
That is momentarism. That is a momentarist. It's like a little virus that's like running around in the body, and it looks for reasons to express, like it finds stories to like purge. And so a lot of the work with Nowism is understand your villain. What does your villain feel like?
Okay.
What does it say to you? What's it whispering in your ear?
Okay.
You're not good enough, man. Do it tomorrow, man. You'll never get there. Stuff like that. And then it also has a whole smattering of behavior that comes with it. So once you interrogate your internal villain, which is essentially it's interrogating your subconscious. These are subconscious patterns that come and hijack your greatness. Once you understand what your momentarist looks like, you can work on like actually offsetting the pollution that it creates into being a now ninja.
Into a now ninja.
Boom.
Defeat the momentarist and become a now ninja. This is awesome. So what was your momentarist?
My momentarist in the past has been about lack. We've spoken a bit. I've lived very much like a nomad my entire life. It's been my highest value has always been travel, and I've lived essentially as a nomadic hippie for a lot of my adult life. I've landed the flight since then a little bit.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Back in the days when I first was tackling this work, lack was a thing. Like just like not having money, and having to, build trust in me that when I arrived barefoot with a one-way ticket, so that I was going to be fueled and funded by something, and so that was the main thing that I've worked on over the years is lack.
That actually reminds me of the New Testament where Jesus said, think not about carrying two coats or the sandals that will be on your feet.
Right.
Because after all, doesn't God feed the ravens? I'm botching. Like my Christian friends are going to be like furious with me for that right now. But yeah, I know I'm botching the passage here, all right, but we get what we're saying.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. This is great, and I'm loving this convo, and I really think that this is what a lot of people need. Before we go on our break here, I wanted to ask you, you said your momentarist was lack, okay, and basically overcoming, I guess, the stresses and anxieties that we have programmed into us because we're used to this mindset of scarcity, basically, and so. How did you overcome that in 90 seconds before we go to break here? how did Nowism help you overcome that? We know that it did, but like, what were some of these specifics that really you put into practice that created that aha moment?
Well, the first thing is I had to evacuate scarcity, which was like this decision in me, like that scarcity is like something that I need. That was my villain, you know. So what I practiced was noticing the presence of abundance everywhere. You know, we're standing inside of a miracle all the time, no exceptions. The only thing that changes is whether we're tuned into it or not. So in order for me to change lack, I needed to get very connected with abundance. But obviously it wasn't in my bank account and it wasn't in my wallet. So I had to go on a hunt for where does abundance express in my life? And I found it on hairs on head, leaves on trees, grains of sand. You know, I saw it in the flow of water in a waterfall. That is, so it's through a celebration of, oh, there's abundance, there's abundance, there's abundance, just by shifting my commentary into the presence and not the absence. Presence. Oh, man, everything changes. Everything changes.
That is great. Okay, we are going to have to take a pause for a second, but I definitely want to come back to this because I know there's a lot of people that are thinking, I want to get there. But it sounds really tough, but it also sounds worth the journey. So for those people who I'm sure are very much like me, we are going to come back in a minute with Kat Dawes, the author of Nowism. Her book is The Time and Space Contract. This is the Cardon Ellis Show on FM 98.1. We'll be back momentarily. Welcome back to the Cardon Ellis Show. I am your host, Cardon Ellis. We are here on FM 98.1. I'm talking with Kat Dawes, the author of The Time and Space Contract, version 2.0. She's right here with us in the studio. And I got to say, this book is super cool. It's called Nowism. And there's a lot of things that are very reminiscent to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, I believe the book was called. It came out probably 10 or 20 years ago, but it's still talked about abundantly in spiritual circles. And I'm liking this. So far, Kat, we've gone over taking a vow to now, beating up your moment terrorist with your now ninja, okay? And that Nowism is basically the fast food spirituality, not fast food spirituality. I'm botching this. What did you call it?
I think it was something like, fast food enlightenment.
Oh, yeah, the fast food enlightenment. All right, I'm really liking this, okay? This is like old school, awesome philosophy and spiritualism packed into a modern package that you really can understand and digest and hopefully use to improve your life.
Right.
So in the first segment of the show, we talked a lot about how you beat your own moment terrorist and those negative thoughts in your life through Nowism. And I think a lot of people in the audience are thinking, okay, how do I get there? Like, what is the process? I know I like Kat Dawes and what she says, and I know I like this Nowism thing that I'm hearing on the Cardon Ellis Show on the radio. How do I dive in to Nowism and really make this a part of my life?
Mm-hmm. You mean Nowism via me?
Via the book, via you. Just how do we get from where we are to where you are?
Yeah. Well, if you want to join any Nowism movements, there's a great game. It's a 12-week online game, which is a game where you craft the culture. And it's live. Okay. It's live, and that's really
Do you
fun.
always speak in cool alliterations? Like craft the culture, the now ninja. Like, is that just something that comes along with Nowism?
Normalized.
Do we all get to go to Australia and come back with a cool accent, you know, have perfectly tanned skin,
totally.
And, you know, hair down to our hips? Is that part of it? You know, no, it's not part of it. Bummer. Anyway, okay. So what was the alliteration? I already forgot.
So, hang on, what are we talking about? I was talking about a 12-week game. So
you were gamifying spirituality. Tell us about the game.
So the game is, it's a game that it's once a week live class. But if you don't make the live class, you get all of these videos where I'm sharing all of these topics, taking the vow to now. Basically, you open the game opens with the vibrational stock market. It's not like Wall Street; it's similar. It's a vibrational stock market. So if you're accidentally investing in doubt and concern and worry, then the game will be to invest in like love and confidence and patience or something like this. And so there is basically a process that I take people through where they start to play with their consciousness with a lightheartedness, but with a level of seriosity to actually create some transformation. And so that's one of my favorite things that I'm doing at the moment, because it's just so fun. The culture is so rad. Like, people just coming online and talking about their moment terrorists and how they caught it in the moment, and they they get a standing ovation from the universe for catching that moment, and then they use one of the tools, like they can switch it, or you can use the quack, which is water off a duck's back, or there's like 52 tools you can use to like get yourself back on track. So that's the most fun thing that I'm doing at the moment. But it all originated from like that little book that you've got there, the Time and Space Contract.
This one that I'm holding up for the camera so everybody can see it.
That's sort of where like the heart of Nowism started, was in that book. And I loved the idea of taking contracts and credit cards and VIP backstage passes and things like that, but putting a spiritual metaphysical message. So I've got like now vouchers where you use your now and you get another now free. It's amazing. And the Time and Space Contract is the book, and that's a contract that you signed with the universe, where it told you, God told you, you are made in the image and likeness, you're bestowed with endless cosmic power, and the loophole is you're given free will. So you can pretend to be limited and all sad and, messed up if you want to be. But the truth is that you've got godlike powers, and all you've got to do is activate those superhero powers, and you'll be flying.
Wow. And you'll be flaying?
Flying.
Oh, flying. Okay. I was like, wow. She either said filleting or fly. Or I wasn't sure, but it sounded awesome.
Yeah.
This is great. So I think a lot of people here they're recognizing a lot of the words that you're saying, and it almost invokes, like, there's this part of us that says yes. It's just like when you're thirsty, there's that part of you that it's just quenched, and when I hear you speaking about this, I think, oh, I want to know more. I want to ingest this. I want to become this way. So how does one become a Nowist?
Yeah.
Is it, you don't just read a book and know everything and all of a sudden incorporate, like, is there a process that you take people through that generally helps them? Or like I'm still trying to figure out how I get from you, the chump with the microphone, you know what I'm saying, to you on the other side over there. All right. You know?
Well, it does start with that vow to now, where you just decide, okay, I'm going to do everything that I can to save the present moment from my negativity. And that's
repeat that. I'm sorry.
So I'm going to save the present moment.
I'm going to save the present moment
from my negativity as often as possible. Right?
That is awesome. And I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I should let this flow, and I'm sure I'm probably interrupting the now. But I want you to repeat how you said you gamified spirituality so that when you're feeling X, Y, and Z negative emotions, you replace them with A, B, and C positive emotions.
Yeah,
but I can't remember exactly what you said. What was the phrase you used?
Might have been one or two things. I'm talking about alkalizing the mental atmosphere, but I'm also talking about offsetting negative emissions.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you've got pollution, right? That moment terrorist creates pollution of doubt, of fear, of stagnation, of lack, like all of that gritty stuff.
Yeah.
So if you can treat it like a carbon emissions trading scheme, like you just like...
I mean, I am loving this. You are literally speaking all of these, analogies that are just perfect, man. Okay, so it's like carbon emissions, if you're going to output like all this nasty negativity, and that was a horrible accent. I should never have even attempted that. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? But so it's almost like cap and trade, like carbon emission credits. Okay.
Exactly.
And how do you do that?
So, but here's the thing is people often think that this process might be really big and nasty, and I've got to go through some big cathartic healing.
Yeah, or I got to go wear barefoot on some island with you as we're, walking through the sand and letting it cut our feet purposefully so we no longer feel the pain or something,
Right. But what I've discovered with myself and with a lot of my students is that a lot of our negativity is actually just a habit. It's just that, 95% of those 70,000 thoughts that you had today are the same ones you had yesterday. So a lot of it is just a groove in your brain. You've been firing and wiring a certain neural network of concern or worry or fear. So in order to change that, number one, a decision of the game. Okay, I'm going to try and catch myself out while I'm doing this. Okay. And then when you catch yourself out, Then you go about the culture of Nowism, which is about getting more interested in the energies of your answer. Flow, ease, freedom, well-being, vitality, confidence, power, love, generosity. These are energies. They're not things. They're ways that we can be in the world. Right?
Okay.
And so the Nowism training is very much about building good vibes. In the beginning, they're endangered frequencies because they're so starved, like they've almost died.
Yeah,
it's like
mine have.
Positivity is a rumor, or at very least, like freedom is like a memory.
Or we almost sometimes feel stupid for trying. We almost feel childish or goofy for, or as though we're like trying to fool ourselves. It's almost, and it's so sad because cynicism becomes increasingly easier as you get older. Okay. And then I also think modern society,
they made it sexy.
They've straightened, the media has like this, I don't want to call it secularism because I don't like blaming isms sometimes, but we are talking about nowism. But secularism also, there's many different tonalities to the word, but just our drift away from God, I would say, and our glorification of the godless and the sterilization of God from our conversation has really led people to becoming illiterate in spirituality. Yeah. And you can't chase away the fact that as human beings, I love the phrase that we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a physical experience.
100%.
And there is a starvation. There is a part of us that is left starved, okay, if it is not fed a manner to express itself spiritually and to understand itself spiritually. And I believe that there are grave consequences, both as an individual and as a society, if we do not embrace spirituality. And that has been vilified in a way in our society through the glorification of the lack thereof. And I view this as the single most destructive thing that's happened, at least to American society over the past 50 years. And I actually like that a lot of your phrases, like, our negative thoughts, they're like carbon emissions, you know what I'm saying? That's actually really cool and a catchy way of thinking it, and how you have to become, what did you say? You have to fight off your negative thoughts with your nowist, or
So you're momentarist, and like, is that what you're talking about? Like to actually alkalize your mental atmosphere. You've got a series of pollution that's happening from your momentaris. So if you're going to offset your negative emissions, you've got to actually decide what is the opposite of that, and then invest in it, get interested in it.
And these positive channels, they really are starved. Okay, so just like a starving person, if you actually catch a truly starving person, you can't just all of a sudden feed them a feast or else kill them. Yeah, you'll explode their stomach, their digestive tract won't be able to handle it, the whole 9 yards, right? So how do you get this starved side of us?
Yes.
How do you start feeding it? And are there any kind of measurable quantifiers along the way? Like, were there any stepping stones where you said, wow, I'm really improving? Just like somebody who is gaining more physical strength for the first time when they see their obliques after doing all those ab exercises, they're like, oh my gosh, I got obliques. It's like, I remember the first time I saw like a neck muscle when I was working out. I was like, oh my gosh, those things are real. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like that those things are real.
Yeah.
So are there any steps along the way where you're just like, okay, I am getting there? And what are those first steps that you have your students, or maybe I shouldn't call them students, I apologize. I know you don't like being called a guru. Who knows? Maybe you don't like your students being called students. You know what I'm saying? They're just fellow soul crystals or like whatever. I don't know. No offense, Marianne Williamson, all right? I don't want to get dogged by some other people that perhaps use the term soul crystals. But, are there any steps that your students can look forward to along the way that they will recognize as significant steps towards nowist enlightenment?
Totally. Well, I think, first of all, what I want to say is that Nowism is not about like just fluffy positive thinking, like quick, just have a positive thought and then But then, you say, oh, yes, I'm abundant. And then your voice goes, no, you're not. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
So you have that sort of war in you.
Yeah.
In Nowism, we very much work on an authentic shift of the narrative. So instead of doing the big I am affirmations, we do the smaller ones, which is like, what if things got easier? What if I got better at this? What if I could shift my life just through thinking alone? What if I'm on my way? And just through like little creative exercises like this, where you start to talk yourself out of who you used to be and start to creatively lean in the direction of the newness, you start to get better feedback, and it is literally that easy. But we got to build a bridge from where you are to where you want to be and make it as authentic as possible. So you can say things like, oh, this is like a really horrible moment, but I love knowing it's temporary. I mean, that's good Nowism, because you're being honest. I hate this moment. It sucks. And it's temporary. This too shall pass. Right? So you're parking in the transitory nature of it instead of parking in the eternal damnation of your moment terrorism pollution. Do you hear what I'm saying? So it's little tricks like this where there's a lot of journaling, a lot of scripting, because your internal commentary is a very well-rehearsed program. That's all it is. It's a repetitious dialogue that you have about reality and your opinions of reality. And cynicism is actually a really funny thing, because we think it's sort of charming in some ways, and it's sort of like a lovely type of humor. Yeah. But the vibration underneath it can be really nasty, It's like can be quite dark. So it's important to be mindful of the energy that we're really putting out there and the dialogue that we have about our lives and ourselves, especially.
It's interesting, as a comedian, you study humor and sarcasm, which is so prevalent, especially in American comedy as of the past 40 years, is actually the lowest form of humor. Yeah. It takes the least amount of intelligence to generate and the least amount of intelligence to execute. Yeah. But it's the most prolific, and I think it has its place. It has its place, but oftentimes it's repackaged and resold as practicalism, right? Or as frankness, realism, or as realism. That's another word that I've learned to distrust, I guess I should say. But let's talk about you and your journey towards getting to here, where you're able to write a book on this. And you said your momentarist was lack, and that oftentimes, due to your nomadic nature, you would be painfully aware of your lack, and then that would bog you down. That was your negative fear and your energy that was rehearsed over and over and over. That was your momentarist that the now ninja had to fight. Okay. Yes. But now you're at a place where you don't fear that lack because you go to the thank bank consistently and so on and so forth. How? I'm just using you as an example because we can't pull a member of our studio audience, out of their cars, okay, and just, put them in the studio here with us. Yeah. But how long did it really take you? Like, how did you discover Nowism? How long did it take you also to get to a point where you really felt like, I've got this down? And I'm sure you never really can truly get it down. And I'm sure it's kind of like being cool, where the second you say, I am cool, you're actually not cool, But at which point did you really come to, I don't want to say enlightenment. It's not like nirvana in
it's a signature
Eastern
moment.
Thought. But is there a signature moment to it?
Yeah, there was for me, definitely.
Yeah, tell me about that. That's what I want to hear about.
So, I was reading Eckhart Tolle. I was going to the seminars. And
is it Eckhart Tolle? It's not Tolle?
Tolle.
Oh, because I've been saying Eckhart Tolle this whole time. Do I sound like the noob?
Eckhart Tolle? I know some people call him that. I'm probably the wrong one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
I've been to the seminars and stood on my head, got the T-shirt, went to the retreats, did all the things, and however, I was dabbling in this content for a long time. Then, this is imagine this scene, okay? I had just ended a 10-year relationship. I was completely heartbroken and lost. I'd been living in a van for 2 years, and I was on my way to a festival of like a bush tuff in the middle of Australian outback. Okay?
Yeah, all right.
And I was on my way to this party, and my heart was heavy, and I was like, going through this transitional thing, and then suddenly I heard an explosion come from the engine of my 1978 Hi-Ace Toyota pop-top. And I felt a dread wash over because I didn't check the oil for how long since my ex-partner had,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay.
it was a chick moment, and I pulled over off the road.
Things
in
that
the middle
Aussies can say that Americans can't. It
Okay.
was a chick moment. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it's affectionate. So I pulled over, and you know when you just know that you've messed up, you know, like
Yeah.
just big time, like, and I just had that wash of like, how has this happened? Of all the things, like, I'm living in this van. This van is my house. You have to understand, this van is my house.
Yeah.
I'm on the way to a festival. I've got $6 in my pocket. There's no phone reception. I just ended a relationship. My life has changed, and now I'm sitting on the side of the road in a van, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm actually a loser. I've actually failed. Like,
Yeah.
and that was the moment where I knew I had two choices. Either this is going to like spiral me down, easy content was winning, or I was going to have a radical response to this crisis. And I chose radical response. Now, it wasn't easy. I got in the back of the van. I had to move my stilt walking, my fire toys, and all the things, make some space. I lit a candle. And I was like, okay.
That must have been an awesome festival that you were prepping for. If you were, what were you moving aside again?
Oh, yeah. I work as an
stilt
entertainer.
walkings,
Yeah.
fire.
Fire dancing toys, stilt walking.
Wow, dude. And you're living in a van. The fire dancing van. You already had a cool life before Nowism, all right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I did. And I loved it. You know, I really did. But it was a circus, you know. And
Yeah.
and so anyway, I made a space, lit the candle, and I was like, okay, I know that I have to be grateful right now. But the
Okay.
truth is, I've got $6 in my pocket, no phone reception, end of the relationship, just destroyed my van, no money. Like, you know, like, how do you be grateful when you're not grateful? So
Yeah.
then I realized this is the moment. And I actually saw my teacher's face in my head. My teacher, if you know who he is Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. He runs the Agape International Spiritual Center, one of my favoriteest gurus on the planet today.
Okay.
He's a very like a metaphysical artist, similar to me. I'm like
Yeah, that was a pretty good impression. Like, I think when most of us think of like metaphysical artistry, our fingers and our arms just start serpentining like that. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
He's a reverend though. So I saw his face and he asked me a question. He said, "What do you need to become now? What do you need to become?" And I knew I needed to be grateful. I just knew it. And so I was looking for things to be grateful with. And like the momentarism was just kicking because it's just too easy, you know.
Yeah, you're in the middle of the desert with no cell phone reception,
Right.
and your car just broke down.
Right.
Okay.
I'm a loser. So I was looking at my hands for a minute, and then I realized it would suck heaps more if I didn't have hands. True story. And
Wow.
so I induced gratitude, not just gratitude, like an ecstatic celebration of my hands. But it was real. It was a real like, oh my God, like actually my hands are good. My eyes are good. I could take a breath. Like, oh my God. My sense of adventure. Like I looked outside the window. I had no idea where I was. You know, and I just got into a momentum. And that night I learned the power of conviction. Conviction is everything because conviction is an emotional investment to what you're saying. And I got out of the van that night under the full moon.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that. And I made a vow to now. And I decided that I was going to do everything I could do to activate my gifts and talents, capacities, but ultimately to be an instrumentality for the best energies ever. Now, my fine print was, right, is that obviously if that was going to happen, that all my dreams would come true. Because, you know, people like go for the manifesting vision board thing, like I want to manifest a house and a business and the things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was a bit like that before. But when this shift hit the fan, I actually realized like, oh my God, like I have to actually become the presence of love. From there, it's a fertile soil. All else will be given. So I realized dictating to God what I want, like Santa, is just dumb. Like that's not it. What I want to do is be an instrumentality for the divine. And that was my revelation that night was, oh my goodness, like I could become an instrumentality for some really high frequencies. But I surrendered all of what I thought I wanted for my life in that moment because I've been trying so hard and obviously didn't work. So I just surrendered, and from there on, this is where things got great. Within 2 weeks, I had someone give me a car. I had someone invest, and I went in to self-publish my book.
This book?
True
Okay,
story.
yeah. Okay, wow.
I got invited to the US by some of the guys from the movie The Secret.
Okay, cool.
They saw me like online floating around.
Wow, great.
And like this all happened within about like 3 months. And before I knew it, I was standing on stage with Reverend Michael, presenting him with a Consciousness Award from Nowism.
Yeah.
Which saying that he was one of his thoughts offsets at least 10,000
Okay.
unconscious people.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me the manifestation was this quickening. Yeah.
Wow, that is incredible. And we have got to hear more of this. In fact, I want to invite you back
Definitely.
to talk more about this and actually dive deeper into Nowism. Now, in case you just tuned in, this great guru we're listening to is Kat Dawes. Her book is The Time and Space Contract, also known as Nowism. This is phenomenal stuff. Thank you for coming in, Kat Dawes. This is the Cardon Ellis Show on FM 98.1. We will see you guys next week.